Welcome back to Dash Explore. I'm Sarah, and today we are going to be talking about potty training, specifically how to handle potty training while you travel. So now, ideally, we all know that we would not start potty training when you know that you have a trip coming up in a couple weeks or a couple months, but we're parents, we know that you can never actually predict how things are going to go. So some of you might have started potty training 6 months or a year ago and your child is still just not 100% there. Or maybe you just started potty training and now you have an emergency trip come up where you have to go somewhere. We've all been there, stuff happens, and I'm here today to share some of my tips for how to handle potty training while you're out and about and traveling, as well as some of my favorite travel items that make potty training while traveling a little bit easier. Okay, so my tip number one for traveling with your child while they are potty training is that public bathrooms are not always a guarantee. So you need to keep that in mind while you are planning your trip. Now, that doesn't mean that you necessarily need to plan everything down to a T and have everything super organized, but it is something you need to keep in mind, that you can't just go out and go because your child will need to go. So when looking for your itinerary for each day, first of all, you need to make sure you have your child go to the bathroom before you leave your hotel or your apartment, wherever you're staying. And then throughout the day, make sure that there are restaurants where you're gonna be able to use the bathroom, or museums, or whatever you're doing, places where you know that there is going to be a bathroom. Now, this can get particularly tricky if you are traveling internationally, as their public bathrooms are not always available or free of charge. So if you are traveling international, make sure that you do your research, you figure out when and where public bathrooms are going to be available, and also make sure that you always keep change in your pocket, because you never know when you're gonna need to go. But also keep in mind that when we were in London most recently, that the bathrooms had a tap to pay option, so we didn't have to have pounds in our pocket to be able to use, but you never know what you're gonna find. So make sure you always have a couple euros, couple pounds, whatever currency they use, keep those in your pocket so that you can get into the bathroom when somebody needs to go. And then my next tip for traveling with your child while potty training is to keep in mind a laundry option when you're looking for accommodations, whether that is finding an apartment on Airbnb or Booking.com or wherever apartments are available, and finding a place that has a washing machine in it, or locating a local laundromat where you could go and drop off your clothes and get them cleaned, or trying to stay with friends wherever you're going so that you can use their washing machine. Because if you are still in the early stages or even the middle stages of potty training, we all know that laundry is just a 24 hours a day thing, that you're probably going to want a washing machine to make sure that your clothes stay clean. So if you know that you have a trip coming up and your child is not 100% in the potty training situation, try to look into a laundry option, because we all know that we don't want to be carrying around dirty clothes while we're traveling. Okay, and then my third tip for traveling with your child while potty training is that sometimes you gotta do what you gotta do. Now, ideally, you want to keep on whatever potty training method you are using, or maybe you're having a lot of success with doing things a certain way, but sometimes you have to switch and alter those things just a little bit, because traveling is not a normal everyday routine. It is something where everything looks different, where you're staying, what the bathrooms look like, what your day-to-day activity looks like, and sometimes you just have to make changes to whatever structure you're doing to get your child potty trained so that you and your child are comfortable while you're on your trip. This might look like putting your child in pull-ups, whether it's just for the plane or for every minute of every day for the entire time you're gone. Just do what you think is best for you and for your child so that everybody feels comfortable and is able to have a good time on your trip. I know that, speaking from personal experience, we were like 95% of the way there with potty training when we went to Paris a couple years ago, and I just ended up defaulting to pull-ups. At first, I thought I was just gonna have them on the plane, because we've all been on a plane. We've been there when you've been stuck on the tarmac for an hour, 2 hours, 4 hours sometimes, that I was like, just for the plane, I want to make sure that we're all set. And then the more I thought about it and the more I looked at our itinerary, I was like, I just don't want to be in a situation where we've had an accident in a restaurant or in a museum or whatever it is that we were doing. I just didn't want to put myself or Haley in that situation, because she was so close. She was almost there, that I didn't want to set her up for failure. So I put her in a pull-up every day, and I said, now remember, we're going to go to the bathroom when we leave the apartment. We're going to go to the bathroom when we leave this restaurant. We're going to give you opportunities to go as often as we can. But if for some reason we cannot make it, this is an option. And truly, this trip is what took us from that 95% all the way up to 100% with potty training. We have had nothing but success since then, and obviously it's been over a year, so we are definitely in the clear now. But sometimes you just gotta do what you gotta do. And sometimes traveling, getting out of your daily routine, getting out of your home environment is what it takes to get that last 5%, 10% of potty training. Just remember this last tip: do what you gotta do and don't over stress about your decision. So those are my 3 tips that I have learned from our experiences of handling potty training while traveling. And now I'm going to move into some of the travel items that I have found really made the whole potty training experience a lot easier while we were away from home. And real quick, before I jump into our travel items, I am not sponsored by any of these companies or any of these items. I did my research, I purchased them because I thought that they would be helpful, and I want to share them with you. So the first thing we brought with us was a travel potty seat. Now, if you are a parent in the middle of potty training, you know that there are all kinds of accessories out there that you can buy. There are the seats that sit on top of the toilet. There are the full like chairs that have the ladder built in that go on top of the toilet. There are the floor potties. There's literally all kinds of stuff. And fortunately, that also meant that there was a travel potty seat that could fold up and we could bring with us. And that proved to be a huge help for us because instead of putting my very small child on an adult potty, she had a seat that made it feel a little more comfortable for her. But also we were in different bathrooms every couple of days. We stayed in 4 different accommodations on that trip, and having a seat that was consistent for her for the whole trip just made things so much easier. Now, I will say that I do have one complaint about it, and it doesn't pack down quite as much as I was hoping it would. It was a lot thicker when it was all folded up. It folds into fourths. And I don't know whether that's the suction cups on it were just like bulkier than I thought, but there are a bunch of options out there. So do your research, find one that you think will work for you. But I also have the one that we use linked down in the description below. Okay, the second thing that we brought with us for potty training while we were traveling was a wet dry bag. Now, you don't necessarily have to go out and purchase a wet dry bag. If you don't have one, you can always use gallon Ziploc bags, but we were given one when the girls were really little so that we could use them for all the newborn messes that were made. But we actually ended up using it a lot for potty training as well. It is just a bag. It folds down really flat, very easy to pack, and I threw it in the diaper bag every day. So if there were to be an accident, or whether that was, you know, potty training related, but also like eating, drinking, stuff happens, that you can take the wet clothes off and put them in this bag and they will not get the rest of your diaper bag dirty. Now, this next one isn't necessarily a specific travel item, but something to keep in mind on the note of the wet dry bag, and that is to bring a change of clothes with you when you are out and about adventuring for the day. So you never know, like I said, it doesn't necessarily mean potty training. It could mean like a spill at lunch or a dropped juice cup or something, but you just want to make sure that you have a change of clothes for your child so that if something were to happen and you're like miles away from wherever it is you're staying, you have something right there with you that you can throw on and make your child comfortable so they don't have to go back through the entire city or wherever you're traveling in their dirty clothes. And then the last thing that you should consider bringing with you if you are traveling with a child who's in the middle of potty training is to bring some pull-ups. Now, like I already said, I defaulted and just brought enough pull-ups for the whole trip, but even if you think you're like almost all the way there, sometimes it's good to just have them as a backup, whether you've had an accident and you just need to get from point A to point B and you want to have a clean, dry change, or honestly, even maybe your child gets sick while you're gone and you just need something so they don't have to be stressing and worrying about that while you're out and about, while you're away from home, and pull-ups can be a really easy option for that. So, you know, throw in 2 or 3 and you will probably be so glad that you have them if you really need them. So I think that about wraps it up for this video. All my tips, all my travel items that we brought with us when traveling with our potty training toddler. And I really hope that this video didn't scare you. If anything, I hoped I showed you that it is possible to travel with a child who is in the middle of potty training. Just because you're in this phase of life does not mean the world around you stops. Things still happen, things still go on. But like I said, try not to schedule a trip right after you start potty training. Kind of space it out so that they have plenty of time to wrap their head around the concept, get comfortable with it before venturing outside of their comfort zone and trying to handle it out in the world. But if you want to travel and go somewhere with your kids, I absolutely believe in you, and I hope that these tips will help you and your family feel super comfortable for traveling while in the middle of potty training. So if you did find these tips and travel items helpful for you and your family, if you could give this video a like, we would very much appreciate it. And if you want to follow along for more family travel tips or more of our family travel adventures, please make sure you hit the subscribe button and ring the notification bell so that you can get notified when we post new videos. And we are also on Instagram, so you can follow us over on Instagram at @explore. Thank you so much for watching today, and we will catch you in the next one.